Hey guys, today we are installing a supply water line for a refrigerator with water and an ice maker in it. Now, when I bought this house, it just had a normal older refrigerator, no need for ice lines, water, all that. And so the renters, right before they moved out, told me that the refrigerator needed to be replaced. And so we ordered a new refrigerator, but then there was no supply lines. So now that we're in here and we're repairing all the damage that they did to the house before the next renter, we're gonna go ahead and add a supply line. So this house has a basement, and we actually just had to have a couple holes cut in the drywall and the ceiling. So we have to run the air conditioner. So we have a little bit of access right now. So this is gonna make it a little easier for us. Sometimes if your fridge is on the same side of the kitchen as your sink, you can run it that way. This is a U shape and it's all the way on the other side. So we're gonna go into the basement. I'm gonna use just this kit. If I was building a new house, like fully refinishing and I had access, I wouldn't use this, but we do have basement access. So I'm just using this ice maker supply line kit. This one has a saddle valve. I don't love saddle valves. A lot of people, here's what a saddle valve is if you're not sure. And I'll show you how we install this, but this goes onto the pipe and it punctures the little hole, and these fail sometimes. We're gonna connect this in our little utility closet, so we'll always have access to this and it will be exposed if we ever need to replace it or we have damage. That's why I'm okay with it. SharkBite also has some kits. I know some people don't like SharkBite, but I feel like I have a little bit more faith in SharkBite. I've never had a problem with them than probably a saddle valve if it was in a not very accessible area. But so the first thing I have to do is I have to drill a hole. I'm gonna go down my floor so that I can get the pipe, the supply line through the joist and into the basement where I'm gonna run it over. And so I kind of have an idea of my locations because we had to do a hole in the back of this wall to run a new thermostat wire. So I kind of have an idea where things are at. So if not, you might have to do a little bit of investigation. So I am going to basically bring my water line up through my wall and loop it a little bit and connect it. Here is where it's gonna connect into the fridge. So the first thing I'm doing now is just doing an exploratory hole, and then we're gonna see if we can push that through and grab it in my hole. And by that, I mean, I have a brass, they also make these in plastic, supply line, but I might have to use like a fish tape or something that you use when you're wiring and pulling wires. So we'll figure out what we need to do. So I know that over here is sorry, I don't know if you can see, over here is a toilet stack coming down from upstairs. And then I'm gonna just come about right here. So all I'm doing is just drilling a little hole so then I can make it a little bit larger with my big drill bit, but I know that bit's a little bit worn out. So I'm just gonna go right here because I have some things I'm trying to avoid. So then I'm gonna go to my bigger bit. So I'm going through right here, I've gone through my subfloor, I've gone through my laminate. And so I just wanna see if I push this through, so it comes with little caps. I'm gonna leave the caps so that I don't damage the end. I can trim it if I have to. I just wanna see if I put this through here, and I might have to take this off and just trim it if I damage it, because this cap makes it a little bigger. Okay, so I'm fitting through there. I'm gonna now go underneath and see what I can see and pull this. Now we're gonna have to uncoil this as we pull it, or it's just gonna catch. So I'm gonna uncoil a little bit so that as I pull through, I can bring it with me. And what I don't use, I'll leave coiled up back here behind the refrigerator or coil it down at my valve I'm gonna create. So now we're gonna go downstairs and just see what we're looking at. So here, it's hard to see, is our ceiling cavity. So you guys definitely, I can't film up there. There's no light to show you what's going on. I don't have a separate light besides the flashlight on my phone. I took a picture, so I'll put that on here to show you where my line's coming through. I'm gonna grab it and pull it, and I'm gonna push it through in the ceiling over here and come down over here where my cold water line is, and then I'll put my valve in. So right now, I'm just reaching for it, if I can. You have to be careful because you want to pull this, but you don't want to kink, because I have a brass line, I don't have a plastic one. You don't want to kink it and bend it because you can break it and make it where it doesn't, well, you can break it and make a leak, or you can kink it so much like when you kink a hose and then you can't get any water through it, which then defeats the whole purpose. So I do have it here, and now I'm working it this way, and I'm trying to curve it just basically around this line that they ran my coil for my AC, because then I have something I can follow. But I might have to go upstairs and release more line, but we'll see. We're just working this. And I'm gonna bring my ladder over here now so I can see if I can see anything. But right here, so this is my AC coil. This little tiny guy right here, that's that line we're pulling through. Got it in my hand. Woohoo! Now I don't want to have to make you go upstairs with me again, so I'm gonna run upstairs and unroll a little bit of that so I can pull that line a little further. I don't need a ton more over here actually, because I just need to be able to get over to this water supply line I'm gonna connect into. And I honestly think that should be enough for me. So for you to just be able to see what we're doing up here, this is where we came through. We came from up there and over, and then we're gonna connect into our cold water line. This is our cold line right here. I'm gonna shut my water off. We're gonna come back here. We had an extra shut off because we have an old valve and it doesn't shut off great. So you always on a rental property have somewhere that your renters know if you have an emergency, if any questions, any water issues, just go shut it off. So you turn that off. So now I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm gonna open my faucet so I can drain as much of the water out of the line. And then we're gonna go ahead and come back down here and pierce our line for our saddle valve. Just to show you, if you're not familiar. So this is what we're gonna be putting on our line. So our pipe is gonna go right here, and then we're gonna tighten this down on our pipe. You have this little gasket that goes on here. So I guess it saddles around the pipe. And what happens is you're gonna tighten it down, and then so we have it pulled back right now, but see that little needle in there? Once it's on the pipe, we're gonna push this down, and it's gonna pierce a hole in the pipe. And then it's gonna allow water to go through to that supply line. This kit came with push to connect little compression sleeve. So this will push to connect on that metal pipe, and then this will actually screw onto here. It gave me two different sizes. So one fits here and one fits on my refrigerator supply connection, and one does not. And so I went to my home improvement store to get another one, and they did not have one in stock. So what I'm gonna do down here, because I have less access, is I got a coupling, but the way these work, this is just what, again, they had in stock because they don't have a lot of stuff there. This is meant to be able to couple two pieces together, but I need these two pieces, and I need this piece. And so the way this works, I'll show you on the line, but I need these three. I'm gonna do this upstairs because I have more access behind the refrigerator, and I'll use the compression push to connect down here because it's just easier where I don't have a lot of access. And so now what we're gonna do is water's off, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go into our cold water line and put our saddle valve on. And you wanna pay attention the direction you set this all up in, that your supply line's coming out the way you want and that you can access it. And so the other thing is you have this little gasket that you're gonna put on. Make sure you put that on before you puncture your hole and put it on your pipe. So I have my little black gasket, it's curved to curve with the pipe. And so I'm thinking, how's the best way? So I'm just gonna start that one so I'm not losing my grip, but I don't want to get it crazy tight because I don't want it to be uneven from side to side. And then we're gonna do this guy. I'm wondering if doing it like this, just for access, is the right call, and I think it is. So I'm kind of going sideways so I can get to the screws that tightening top, and just gradually going back and forth so I'm not doing one side way more than the other. Now I'm going to use my little push to connect thing. So because this is not going to, I'm going to connect it on here and then I'm going to put it on here because this is not going to probably want to twist once it's in there. I'm not really sure. But the way this connects is this just push in here, and then when you want to loosen it, see that little green guy? You pull that out and use it as a push, like a shark bite when you release it, but this has to get pushed inward, and that green thing blocks it from doing that. So this has a compression, has a little gasket in there. So we're just gonna tie this on, but it's plastic, so we're not wanting to overdo it. So that's on there nice and snug. We're just doing hand tight. So now we're gonna push into our push to connect fitting. Remember, when we're doing our curves, we're doing big wide curves. We're not doing tight 90s or anything. And then we're gonna push that. And you can pull this and do it a couple times just to check it. Make sure you're getting in there deep enough. And then you're gonna put that little clicker back on there. All right, now on this side, this is where the other connector they gave us doesn't fit. So that's not gonna do us any good. So we're going to go ahead and use what I had showed you earlier that we have. And so this is where our water line connects in our refrigerator. We're gonna pull that off. That just protects it when you don't have anything on it. And then on this end, we have like a little just plastic guard. So we're gonna take all our little parts. We're gonna put our cap. I don't know what the terms for all these are. Slide that back. Then our little, that piece right there. And then what that does is that slides in there, and that's gonna go directly onto here. Now this, you could loosen it so you have slack. I'm going to, because if you wanted to pull it out, if it was coiled like that, so I've unloosened all my slack, and then I'm carefully straightening this out, so, and careful not to drop this piece out that I have, and I'm gonna put that into my fridge line, and then I'm gonna get it as deep as I can get it. I'm gonna pull that little nut, I don't know what that guy's called, down to about where this is gonna slide down to, and that's gonna bevel onto there. And then we're gonna tighten this with a crescent wrench. I'm gonna go make sure my hole's punctured all the way through on my valve, and then we're gonna turn on water and make sure we don't have any leaks anywhere. So we're back down here at our valve. So we're going clockwise until we can't turn it anymore, per the instructions. Okay, can't turn it anymore. So now I'm gonna turn the water back on, and we're gonna hope nothing's leaking. So here it looks pretty good. I'm gonna go check behind the fridge, and the water you hear is my faucet is on, so I'm gonna go turn that off. I'm gonna try to turn on my ice maker and my water supply line, get it pumping through. I figured it out, guys. Appliances usually have something, like they always tell me when I get dishwashers to run them once before you use them. I'm guessing it's some sort of lubricant or like anti-rust thing from the factory. So you always want to run a good bit of water through it, especially before you have it start making ice for you. All right, so here's what I did wrong. I tightened my needle down on my saddle valve to poke the hole, and then I didn't loosen it back out, so it was basically just plugging that line. So then I went clockwise all the way to poke the hole, then you gotta go counterclockwise, and as soon as I did a little bit, I could hear the whoosh that it was letting the water through. So I've checked my supply line on the back of the fridge. I've checked my supply line downstairs where I connected my brass tubing on both sides, and we don't have any leaks. So as always with anything new with water, check it a couple times over the first, day, couple days, because it might be like a really slow little drip. Just double check a few times to make sure you don't have a leak that you didn't see, because a lot of water damage comes from refrigerator line fails and or failures, and toilet line failures, and sink supply line failures. So just double check to be safe. So that's it. Now we have ice and water, and I think our tenants will be really happy with that. So see ya. See you guys on the next one.